Hello, my name is Terry Elton. I'll be teaching the course on leading change this spring semester. What we're going to do in this video is walk you through the syllabus, answer hopefully a few of your questions about the details of this course to get you started. So if you don't have the syllabus, I encourage you to pause the video and go get a copy of it and then join us again. As you'll note in the syllabus and as you registered online, this course meets in 6 weekly precepts. Then there'll be some online work and some reading work. So I want to walk you through that. 2 of the precepts will happen online. Those room assignments are listed in your precept thing when you registered. Also, for those of you that will be online, there'll be a Google Hangout link that is in the course page under resources. So I encourage you to find that. Both of these precepts are live in the sense that you're talking with a small group of people and processing the information each week. So each week there'll be different sections to do. So if you go to the middle or the end of the course, the syllabus, it'll lay out the course by weeks. I think that's the easiest way to walk through the class and show you what we have going. So each week there's something you'll be doing personally to think about who are you as a leader leading in change. So for example, in the first week, this week, you will read the introduction to how the way we talk can change the way we work. And then you will think about, as you enter this course, what's your posture toward leading change? And then that will be one of the discussion questions that you engage with your precept. Second thing, as you think theologically, there'll be some kind of reading or idea that you will be engaging there. In the first week, we're going to think about how did the Christian church come to be in its early stages. And so you're going to read Acts chapters 1 and 2. And then you're going to think about the question, what do we need to remember about the early church that can help us think about church today? Third, you're going to think theoretically about some different aspects of leadership, of organizational theory, of leading change in other aspects outside of the church. So those are done through a TED Ed unit. Those links are in the weekly assignment section of your course page, and you can link right to those. What you'll do is you'll watch a TED Talk. There'll be a short little quiz on some key concepts. There'll be a written kind of explanation around change and helping us think about how that translates to the church. And then there's a discussion question at the end that you will answer to and that all the other classmates will also have access to. And then you'll bring something from that into your discussion. That first week it says, what's one learning you had that stood out from this module as you watch that TED Ed? And then the last thing is I want you to think about this contextually. So this first week, you'll be thinking about what's recognizing the need for change in a context that you're currently serving or that you're familiar with that you'll be using throughout this area. So that's where you think of a case. The final project is you working each aspect of the course in weeks 2 through 5 through the lens of a living case study, something you're very familiar with. And then that's your final project. So this first one is to think what's the actual case study that you want to engage and then share that with the people in your precept. So that's week 1, and it also shows the 4 different aspects of the course. So the first week, as you will see, is just looking at how do we think of who we are as a leader, as we lead change, and getting grounded in how we might think about or address leading change. The second week is under the title, Expanding Our Horizons. This is a chance to think about how do we understand change? And is it all negative? Is there positive aspects? Is there opportunities as we think about change? How does that come to be? And then what does it mean to cultivate a theology of change? Actually, leadership always involves change, and most of our theology also has some element of change to it. But yet, we often don't actually sit down and think, what's our theory or a theology of change? We just go right to theory. And so that's what you're going to be looking at in that second week. And how do you create urgency around change? And then how do you recognize that God actually might be in our midst, in the midst of all that's going on in the church and in our lives as we experience change? So that's week 2. Week 3 looks at congregations as complex systems. There's a lot going on, and that's part of what makes this complicated. Not only are our congregations or ministry systems, but so are we. And so we have different elements going on as well. So that is what you'll be doing in week 3. Week 4 looks directly at conflict. Conflict is something that comes with leading change, whether that's a mild conflict or whether that's all-out war. Some of us have experience in all of those ranges over the years in congregation. So this week is a chance to look at some theory and some theology that might help us think about how we address conflict. And then week 5, the last of our content, is on innovation, experimenting, and thinking about the future. In this time and place, it is many of those of us that lead at Luther Seminary are biased that it's time to experiment and think about what it means to be church differently as we have an eye towards the future, not just as we look to the past. So this is a chance to think personally and contextually, theoretically and theologically about how we might do that. And then you'll see that the last week is a chance for you each to share a little bit about how you're pulling all this together for your final project. And then that will be the 16th and 17th of March. And then the next week is actually when your final project is due to me. Those will be posted on my LutherNet, but I also created a folder in the discussion area for you to share those with your other colleagues, but also because they might care about your final project, but also a place to turn it in to me. One of the other things that I want to highlight is that each of you need to do a book review. Most of you have already signed up for that. Thank you for doing that. That will be due in week 3. It'll be due on actually the beginning of week 4, Monday, the last Monday in February. And those will be posted in my LutherNet in the full discussion. And then as you come into week 4, one of your assignments is to read one book review in each of the different categories. So I have put the book reviews in the full discussion under folders for each of those categories, so you don't have to figure out which is which with regard to that. The other piece that I want to highlight is that because these are self-led, each of you will take a turn in leading and being the point person for one of those discussions. Some of you will have groups smaller than there are weeks, so some of you may have to double up on that and lead more than once. But so I can stay in conversation with you. What I would like you to do is, so for example, let's say I was leading the discussion in week 1. You look to the small group questions of each of those 4. That's a guide for you to talk about your time. And then I would organize us together. I would make sure we cover those 4 questions. And then I would write up a 1 to 1.5 page reflection on how did it go in our group, what were some concerns, what were some things that came up. And then post that in your group folder in the full discussion area. What I will do each week is read through each of those postings, and then I will offer some comments back, some reflections back. And so that's how the back and forth will go. Since the groups all meet on Thursday and Friday, I ask that those get posted at least by Sunday night so that Monday morning I can be ready to look at those and post something for the upcoming week so that I'm going in the same cycle that you are. So that's most of the assignments. The only thing I want to talk about a little more in depth is your contextual project or your final project. This, like I said, all of these assignments help you get to that. So if you do the work each week, my hope is that this final project will kind of write itself and you just have to put everything down on paper. So here's the assignment as it says. Each student will engage the course material through the lens of a living case study. Case studies are to be a ministry situation in a context in which you have led or are currently leading. Each week, there'll be a contextual assignment that helps you think about that site through a particular angle that adds kind of a different level of dimension of your understanding to that case study. While each week looks at the parts, this project looks at the whole, and it's a way to integrate the conversations. So using all of the different learnings from class, the videos, the readings, the discussions, and your contextual assignments, you as a student are to address what does it mean to lead change and conflict, theologically, theoretically, strategically, and personally via the lens of your case. You do that by writing a 10 to 15 page paper that addresses these 4 sections. Number 1, describe the case, describe the context. Is this a mission start congregation? Is this a congregation that's been around 100 years? Is this a case that some big change is in the midst of? Talk about the context, talk about the ministry of what's going on, and identify within this setting what are some key issues and questions that might need to be addressed. And so with that, you're not going to be able to address all of those, but pick one of those that then you're going to keep going. That section is about 2 to 3 pages of your overall whole. The next part is provide a theological frame. Pick one, maybe 2 at the most of those issues or questions that you've addressed, and think about what are some theological concepts and resources that would help you develop a theology of change for addressing that situation. So let's say it's pastoral transition. That could be it. What is it about theologically, theoretically that you could bring into conversation that would help you do that? I ask that section be a little bit more, 3 to 5 pages, and you have at least 3 to 4 core theological or biblical ideas that you're putting in conversation in that section. The third one is to provide a theoretical frame, tending to the issues and identified in the first section and drawing on the theology that you named in the second section. Provide a framework for thinking about and understanding more deeply using theoretical ideas, help you understand this case. So for example, leadership transition is something that's studied in many fields. Maybe the book that you read offers some insights into that you could put in conversation. Maybe one of the TED Talks highlighted something that you want to put into that. That section is a similar amount of pages, 3 to 5, and you should engage several of the theoretical resources from this class that we studied or that you read about in your book review. And lastly, now what? What will you do? The last 2 to 3 pages should talk about, based on the sections 2 and 3, theological and theoretical frames, what might be some action steps that you could take in this setting if you were leading the change. Note that there will be 9 points for each of the sections, each of the 4 sections, for a total of 36 points. Plus, there will be 4 points designated specifically to you integrating the readings from this course. So I want you to make sure that you're engaging in each of the areas, stuff that you learned directly from the TED Talks, the readings, and your book review. Again, those will be posted in my Lutheranet no later than Friday, March 24th. I'm excited for this course. I've got to teach it many times, and I think I look forward to that last time with you and seeing how you've helped each other think about this and what you've learned about leading change. I will be in conversation with you throughout the course, through online posts and through other videos, but if you have specific questions, please don't hesitate to email me or give me a call. Thank you.